get mad. Rap niggas, big trash. Yo, you can see me like I seen her in that beamer, no get meaner. I know pain, so we I'm on, bitch, I'm feeling like I'm Rita. I know they ain't know what I'm on party in the bleachers. I remember when they used to sleep on me, now they believe it. It's not a real roof, I let they is the same reaches. Swimming with the bitches on the Sicilian beaches. I got water on my wrists, feeling like I'm doing dishes. Feel like Santa Claus on Christmas, got the bag, I'm granting wishes. And my stability sent me with all of the drama. Listen to me, I get this a lot of more. Violins way too busy shining. I can't throw no hands with a fist full of diamonds.
Alright, it's good. Where's this one? Let's get Ben on. Hello, sir.
Yo, how's it going?
Thanks for making time, by the way. I know it's late as fuck over there.
No, it's not too late. No, it's 10 o'clock.
You're a family man, motherfucker.
Yeah, it's true. I have stayed up later than this before, but yeah,
Word.
that's right. So how are things?
Dude, busy, man. This is the first month this year that I've had to use my iCalendar on my iPhone just to like keep everything on track. So I guess that's a good thing.
Right.
But
yeah,
I don't like schedules, so it actually annoys the fuck out of me, to be honest.
Well, but it's better than the other way around, right?
Dude,
it's better than having no bookings or not being busy or nothing. It's better.
Right. But like, I've made it 10 years without ever having to like have to plan shit out. Like it's
right.
I've been so fortunate with my laziness up until.
I know sometimes laziness just catches up with you, and it turns out it doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Stop being talented, right? And people will stop contacting you. It's very easy.
I don't know, man. I don't even. Yeah. Yo. So how do we? Fuck. I legit was just like typing in how to add someone to an Instagram live. I'm such a fucking newbie. Can you post or pin a comment? Do you do this?
I don't know if I can.
I do it.
I think you
Where
can.
Do I
yes.
do this at?
So there should be a thing somewhere at the bottom, or I think you just click on a comment and you should be able to pin it from your end.
Okay, hold up.
Do you know, the problem is they always kind of muck around with the UIs and they change and buttons move.
All right, let's see. This
is your laziness catching up with you. You should spend a week preparing.
Nah, because I'm not like Instagram Live is not like, it's just a thing that now I've decided that I'm gonna do once in a while. But okay, so different. Man, this is too hard to type out. This is stressing me. Okay, so all I'm gonna say is, no, should I do it? I should. I'm a bitch. I'm a fucking bitch. All right, hold on.
Well, look, hello everyone that's coming in and finding this not riveting. So I'm going to say, hey Bensonist, hey George Magician. I'm saying hello to all your fans.
Oh, yeah. So, you hello. Take care of that. You handle the comments for a second. Yeah.
Do you know what? I've got a broom as well. Shall I sweep the floor? All right. Hello, the Don Smile. This is probably like the most amateur thing to do, just to say hello to people. But look, hello, I'm a friendly guy. Yep, that's another language, but I'm sure it was positive. Hope you're all having fun. I apologize if you're coming here just to see Calen and some other strange Englishman has popped up. You see how I've conveniently placed a guitar here, as if to suggest as if to suggest somehow I'm creative and I play. Don't ask me anything about that guitar. It's not mine. But it kind of suggests a kind of creative vibe. Yeah.
God damn it, I pinned a fucking comment. Holy shit.
You did it.
What a fucking beast.
Dude, well done.
Wow.
Do you know what?
Wow.
You've set the bar very low, so we can all clap.
Clap in your black gloves,
there we go.
motherfucker. Yeah, all right. So yeah, the pinned comment is obviously differences and similarities between illusion props and sleight of hand.
Oh, good segue.
And I get on these like obsessive thought walks, right? Like I go on these little mental walks where I just like, I have to have something more. So I figured the conversation being public, people might get, more out of it, or it might do better than just like, hitting you up on the phone and being like, yo, like, so I really don't know if there's more than 10 minutes. There could be 10, 30, like, it's really just, we can call it whenever.
It's true, but also look, if we're going for a walk, it might start raining, right? It might.
It's raining right now.
Right, we might have to dive for shelter. We might have to build. We might have to survive for a week in the. There's so many places this can go. It's fine.
I'm going full cycle on these thoughts too. Like, so try to
keep up.
No, not keep up. Just like, hopefully it's not too confusing, because my articulation is usually maybe not in the same language as other people. But anyways, fuck it. All right, so let's start with like, what do you think is the difference from your experience in like sleight of hand game? Like, why did you focus on sleight of, like, we both focus on the same in the same industry, but I don't think we could be further apart from what we spend our time craft wise on, right?
Yep.
So first off, do you fuck with like prop based illusions, or do you really solely only focus on sleight of hand? And why do you fuck with like sleight of hand over props in your head? Like, what made that decision, Yeah,
I mean, so it's a big question. There's a lot to unpack, but it's all part of the same family, in my opinion. You're essentially manipulating perception fundamentally with illusions, slightly more attention-based manipulation with magic, but you are manipulating attention and perception. And there is something about the puzzle solving aspect of it that I find really mentally stimulating. I think that it's not just the performance of it. The performance of it is one part of it, whether or not you are performing what you're doing, which is kind of meta performances, where you are
it's got very meta lately, like to a point where it's like I'm literally just waiting for someone to tell me to stop going down the meta route, and like, but it hasn't happened yet. So I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna go as far as I can.
No one will. It's too entertaining.
Okay.
So no, it's great. But here's the thing. So yours is kind of more meta performance at the moment.
Right.
But the thing for me is like, it's not just the performance, regardless of how it expresses itself. There is something fundamentally interesting about it. I think there is something cognitively challenging about trying to work out something that messes with the attention and perception of others. For good, we are not warlocks, we are not evil people, we are not cult leaders, for good. And that in itself is fundamentally interesting. And I think if you don't have a joy for that, I think you're missing out on a lot of it. And some people stop there. Other people kind of then push that forward to performance, where it becomes much more about the kind of the activity, the engagement of that performance, the kind of fun and the joy of it, which is all part of it. But there is definitely something that you enjoy and I enjoy too, which is about the kind of the exploration of an idea, whether it's kind of
you kind of do meta fucking card magic a little bit too, man. Like, if you think about like some of the method jumps that you take on some of the stuff that I would say that you're most popular for right now, it's like, it's really like magic for magicians that lay people are also interested in, because it's bulletproof, like it really does. Like, I think about that because and maybe that's partly why I hit you up to talk about this, because what do you think is like the texture difference from like a layman point of view when there's like a strict card set of like 5 minutes or like, you know, a prop based routine? What do you feel is that?
Well, I mean, I think first of all, what they think is none of my business. For the number one,
Right.
it's just
Okay,
like,
let me reframe.
yeah,
What do you maybe okay, I want your opinion on the texture. I want to know
yeah,
like how you view the texture
yeah.
of a performance. So like if you, when you're wherever the fuck you are watching either a magician or whatever, it how would you maybe internalize and articulate the texture of watching a really great card trick or a really great prop-based illusion? Maybe
So
that's better.
I think on some level they're very similar because someone knows that they've encountered, so an intelligent person knows that they've encountered something that kind of shouldn't be possible, and kind of they know isn't possible, and they know that you know isn't
Right.
possible. But we've both entered a game where right now we're going to just enjoy the process. And so I think that on some level, when it comes to the illusion stuff, the type of stuff that you're doing, you tend to be doing one of two things. You're either hiding the real or you're showing the false. And you're essentially manipulating perceptual things. And that kind of is the goal. That kind of is the goal, to do that so that they're educated.
Sometimes at the same time, which is like
Of
the
course.
crossovers are the trippy shit to me, you know.
Yeah,
But
there's
yeah,
a nice blend, but I think that there is definitely a point where the game is also to kind of show them that, because what you do with what you're doing is at the end of that process they can watch that and think, wow, I've kind of learned something. Instinctively they don't sit there and go and do homework, but I've learned something about the kind of
don't
frailties of my perception, or about an assumption that I make in my judgment, or a bias that I have, and what you do kind of immediately reveals that type of perceptual leap. And I think that that is the big difference between that and magic, because what magic does is kind of hide that, in the sense that on some level you're trying to affect expectation and memory over time. And so there's a shift in the way in which the deception affects someone.
mhm.
But both basically are cousins. But they're in the same family, but they're cousins.
I find that it's like interesting to tackle with. I don't feel that there's a guideline or a rule set that's clear for things that are non-card, non-coin effects that use like
Yeah.
ordinary, like it's very hard to find good advice outside of like Tommy Wonder talking about prop-based like routines. Like he's like really understood objects. Like the guy really like understood how objects affected people and what you could do with them and what you couldn't. But it seems like isn't the goal kind of like in my head, like my goal of like what a magician is to, you know, share illusion, which can be many different flavors and genres, right? But like it's to kind of get rid of the fighting between the performer and the, which is why I tend to go into figuring out how I can show something, because then there's not a ending feeling of someone feeling less smart or out of the loop, and you
Yeah.
get to just appreciate something for what it is. Where like in card magic, I think those things are done much more subtly because the deception is the first and foremost. You know, it's usually long-term deception that card
Yes.
magic is messing
Yeah,
with.
and I also think, to use your kind of take away the fight analogy, I would say that magic often, just trying to think about it now, so this will probably sound garbled, but
Right.
falls into like three categories really when it comes to fighting. You're either removing the fight, which is what you're doing, which is that you're taking away any of that, absolutely, and there is a certain pleasure in that. Then there's the idea of kind of like pacifying the fight, you know, calming it down a bit. So what comedy magicians might do, which is that still deceive, but yet do so with laughter. And so it becomes less of an issue. And then there's the other way, which is you have a fight with them and then you beat the crap out of them,
Yeah.
and you win the fight. And it's kind of all three of those things. I suppose it's like picking when the right time is for them. But I do think that for me, I love the idea of trying to figure out something which is fundamentally deceptive and trying to work out how to implant that in someone's head so they walk away with something they cannot fathom. Now, it doesn't come from ego. I think probably when I was younger it did. It probably came from wanting to appear a certain way. But now, as I've got older, it's much more about trying to do the things that I want to do, figure out certain things in certain ways, get the right type of effect that I want in the right way. So with this, I'm going for this type of experience or this type of thing happening. And so it becomes much more about trying to achieve a certain effect in their mind, as opposed to just fooling them. Fooling them is very easy.
For sure. And I'll be the first one to say that, like, I don't think something extremely important clicked until like maybe like the winter before the pandemic. Like there was like a piece that I had been searching for in my own magic journey that finally I understood clearly in my own mental structure of how to, and it was the mental journey aspect, which I think a lot of the optical illusion stuff takes people down. There's not a lot of time words, but there is like a visual mental story that, you know, it takes your mind down, ups and downs. And I think that that's like I see so many similarities, and I think it's just interesting to, the biggest difference though that I see is usually the examinability, the impromptu nature, and it changes. Like I've in some videos that I posted in the last couple of weeks, I asked people for a lot. Like I just was like, all right, guys, like just come on this trip with me and just see if you like it. And some of the stuff was more successful, like attempts, and some need to be more refined. But it's interesting that like there's
yeah, but you're looking for something, right?
I mean, you have to, the area that I'm focusing on right now, because I mean, I still love sleight of hand, but I don't love it the same way that like you do, you know. But like I appreciate the logic and the circles that can be completed in like effects that I see you design, you know. And those are like similar things to where it becomes like in the prop-based game is like, if you can create something that looks exactly like the real object, but it does something else, at that point, you really have something, you have a base, a foundation of something that can really fuck with someone. And usually the only way that people go on like TV shows right now is I'm going to try to mess with your mind and make you believe it's a normal object, right? But the idea that there's at least 10 other successful avenues that you can do once you have those one-to-one replicas of just different types of like plots is exciting to me, because there was once a time when I believed that was like the main thing you do with a prop. And I think that judging by just some of the non-magician interests lately in some of the optical illusion stuff, my gut tells me that people are ready for pedestrians, not laymen. Pedestrians are ready for you know, some weirder shit, you know.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's fun, isn't it? As well, you can remember, like you've got to take joy in the process.
Fun.
Like,
it's so fun.
It's fun, right? If you take joy in the process, that's really all that matters to some extent. Like if you can make, there are two things.
The craft matters like a motherfucker.
Yeah, it does matter, but I think there's two things. I think it's the same with all of it. Like you should absolutely treat the craft with respect, but if you put it too much on a pedestal, then you won't move. I think on some level, I'm not saying you have to disrespect it, but it's only by having a level of disrespect to some extent that you can kind of push past certain boundaries. You know, treating something with disrespect out of ignorance is one thing, but doing so with the sense of trying to build something new is different. And I think that, you have to kind of balance up your joy in the process, a kind of an understanding or a kind of an appreciation for the craft, and also the kind of, there is a knowledge that other people enjoy that too. And I think what you really don't want to do is find yourself too heavily in one camp. To me, it's like it's about constantly playing with what I want to do, but then how is this seen, you know,
that's
and vice
probably
versa.
the best advice I could take, because I get like, I have a naturally obsessive personality. So like I can get obsessed with like a single slice of the whole magic spectrum for like years. Like I'll just become like blinders on. I can't even see anything else, because I'm just like, I'm so obsessed with just seeing what this can do, you know? But after like, you know, me and Franco went through for a couple of years, just like some different, like 2 or 3 different solid separate types of genres of magic. And that was like really good, just to go like to stick with one for like 6 months and then move on to the next one. And then, you know, okay, so it's like you focus on sleight of hand, then you move to gimmicks, and then maybe it's in the hands, and then maybe it's this, maybe it, you know, and it's someone was just talking about circles to me. Damn. Yeah. Maybe it was Shane Cobalt, but he was talking about circles of like the understanding comes when it's like you start with sleight of hand, you move on to gimmicks, you get extra knowledge and perspective, you move to maybe like a stand-up section to focus on, and when you get back to sleight of hand, your perspective now has these new kind of edges and textures to it that you make much different decisions. And I think articulated, I really agree with that idea, that concept that he kind of just voiced. It was nice, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think if I look back to what interested me when I began, it was very different to now. And I would say every 4 or 5 years, there is some kind of evolution, some kind of change. Not that I think it's necessarily more important than what anyone else is doing or better, but there's definitely a kind of a movement. And I think for me, if I really look back on a lot of stuff, I mean, you mentioned sleight of hand with me, and it is true. But the thing for me, it's not even that I love sleight of hand. What it is that it's, to me, the most practical and efficient, direct way for me to be able to engage in a deceptive act without the need for any external stuff. And so for
100%, I agree with that.
That's why it's not actually that I like the sleight of hand by itself. And ultimately, the idea for me is to try, as I've gone on, is to actually try to make the props disappear. So actually what happens is I may be using cards, I may be using coins, I may be using these other objects, but actually the goal is to try and make the props disappear. So what it feels like to someone else is that this could have happened with anything. And I think early on, it was about the prop to me. It was about card magic with a capital, you know, C and a capital M.
The goals are like, that's something that I think identified. The goals have to be it's very important to identify goals when you're
so for example, right? So for example, this is a very, very simple example, but let's, for argument's sake, say that I take a coin and I hold it in one hand and it travels from one hand to the other. Magicians could look at that as a coin trick, and you could present it in a way that normal people will feel that's a coin trick. You may feel it's a coin trick. However,
I know that's not from performing that effect.
Right. What that isn't really at all. I mean, you could perform it in a way where it absolutely is. But what you're really doing is you're demonstrating in that moment either the ability, or you're demonstrating the illusion of making something move from one place to another. And so for me, the goal is, how can I make, even though I need a coin for this particular handling, how can I make the coin seem like it could have been anything? If I'd held a lighter, or if I'd held anything in my hand, it would have moved. So the power, the idea becomes more relevant than the object. When I was younger, I would have seen a coin trick. Now I don't. And so what I'm trying to, now magicians, if they watch it, magicians can't see it that way, because magicians' minds are in the space of the methodological understanding, oh, that's a good version of so-and-so's this and that. Whereas if you step right back and look, truly look, you start to see something bigger, you know.
So I've started to adopt a thought structure where my personal taste, I don't personally like the idea of convincing people that things could be done with any object, just because that's too far from the truth for me right now. Maybe I'll get less out of this like ultra honest phase of like I'll just show everything. But like right now, it like blows me away that there was like a time when I thought it was like interesting to perform a street magic effect, but convince them that it's their dollar. Like to me, and at least this close up, I'm gonna call it like modern street magic type of energy performance. I don't see it adding anything to the performance, because what I feel now is that it's a much more interesting thing to get them to ask different questions than is that my real object, because that is the most confrontational, like there's no good answer to that. Like if the answer is that my object and I do something impossible, then people are like sussed out, because they're like, well, it can't be that object, because I know that, you know, smart people have to believe there's something more, because, you know, we all know that magic, you know, doesn't exist in 2021. And then if it's not my object, you know, then it's like, oh, it's just a trick. But it's like getting away from the, oh, it's just a trick is so necessary when it involves props, because props are so like props with magic. I think part of the reason why I fuck with it is because it's so close to visual gags. It's like the line of visual gag is right here, and a great prop-based illusion that's like world class is right here. And it's like you can fuck up that and just do a visual gag just by making two wrong decisions. And I love that things are on the line of either like completely being whack or just being very nice to watch, you know? And
yeah, and also I think that so going back to what you're saying about not wanting to someone think it's theirs, or the idea of making them feel it could be done with any object. I think the idea is ultimately for me, it's to try and, so let's take that example I used of something moving from hand to hand. Right. It's not even necessarily for me in that situation that I want to convince them that I could do this with any object. For me, it's about just demonstrating something that happened that causes them to walk away with more than the sum of its parts. So that it's not that I necessarily want to even state that, but I want them to start thinking, I have just seen something amazing. And I don't know where their mind will go. Their mind can go in many different directions. And so for me, the goal is to actually take them out of, oh, that's just a trick, or that is sleight of hand. I want them to go away and not know, so that they're just thinking to themselves. And so often, if you really look closely at most of the things I'm saying in presentations, I'm actually being very, very ambiguous, intentionally so.
Aware, yeah.
So that they, wherever they're at, they fall into a place that is the most interesting for them. But what I like is the fact that it's not just left open. Those are intentional traps. So you end up having, you know, you can, with this particular presentation, you give them two places they can fall into. And you've created both of those places. I kind of like that.
I use similar ploys of like cognitive, like traps with illusions, because like I look at like things that are like maybe like what a magician would count as like, oh, well, it's not a perfect effect. I look at those as entrance points into like forks in the road. So like, let's say, I love the idea of doing tricks with phones without the screen on, because to me, that's like in a show setting, if there was a show setting, I love the ambiguousness of when you pull out a phone that's not on, it could be the real phone, and you could be using it as a prop, or it could be an illusion prop. But like, by never showing either of them real or fake overtly, you now create this like kind of blurred area where it gets very like, it's very interesting to me, because I think finding like jump-in assumption points for illusions or routines is like a very interesting, fun thing to do, where it's just like, if you can get on the same page mentally with someone in the beginning, then I like the idea of trying to create like invisible tram lines that you've written this story, and it's just such a generic cognitive jumps that 90% of people that are not, you know, that don't have maybe engineering degrees will fall into these things just because the tools of the cognitive tools are just so basic and so just profoundly human that you don't have to worry about them too much. And that's like something that's ultimately hard with props for me. Like I cannot begin to tell you how hard it is to jump into even touch on those things. Cause like with some of your like more in the hands card work, I think it hits those notes where it's like you're really having them tell you the story, and you're just like, just write the story. Once you've written the story for yourself, come back to me. Now that you have your internal story, I know exactly where you're at, and let's play. And like, I think that like loose framework of stuff is really what makes like great magic in any genre, you know, because it's like, yeah, I really do fuck with it.
Yeah, and I think that the thing for me as well is that, you know, if you're a musician, say,
like you, right? Guitar guy.
I would, but I don't want to move out of frame. I can't reach it. Just everyone knows shredding it. No, I think if you're a musician or filmmaker or anything like that, you have an idea of a story that you want to tell or a thing that you want to say or whatever. But then also at the same time, there are groups of people. So let's take music. Some music is made because you need to express something deep from a tragic moment in your life, maybe. Sometimes it's just a track that is made to fill a floor, right?
Right.
So to me, I think that a lot of the times magicians always talk about rules for magic or ways they should be or shouldn't be. To me, I just look at it and think, look, some people want to bring joy to other people and have fun, right? Some people, it's about the act of what others take away with them. Some people, it's about earning a living and having people clap, right? Others, it is about fame and ego, and they don't really care what they're doing as long as they're famous, right? There's every single level of engagement with the craft, and that's that's what makes it so much fun. That the craft has a way of applying itself beautifully to all of those different areas, right? Like a ubiquitous kind of thing. It's beautiful. And so there are some people where there's a bias, right? I wanted to kind of I'm like a day walker, because there's part of me that is like absolutely concentrating on the process itself, the thing I want to say in the way that I want to do it. But then on the other hand, it doesn't matter if an observer doesn't perceive it the way that I want them to. So I can't just do 100% what I want to do, because it might not actually work from their perspective. So there's always this kind of dialogue between what I want to do and how can I get what I want to do in their head, which may mean I have to compromise part of what I really want to do in order to create the impression of what I want to do. So there's this kind of very interesting dialogue that happens.
That's a heavy concept for if you're listening to this. Try to maybe say that one more time, because that's a very important thing, I think, for anyone that's watching to comprehend, or at least try to comprehend, if you can run that back once.
Yeah. So, but basically, I'll try and say it more clearly. So basically, you know, there are things that I really want to be able to kind of explore. An idea that I really want to see, is it possible to kind of create this impression within someone's head, because there's this idea I want to create. Most of the time, I'm trying to create an idea that I would want to experience if I had no magic skills. Yeah. If I knew nothing, what would I want to see? I wouldn't just want to see a guy do a trick in a certain way. I'd want to have an experience that felt a certain way. And so often I try and create from that position. But in doing so, yes, I'm doing 100% what I want to do, but I also have to balance that alongside their perspective. They have to be able to experience it. So that often means that sometimes I can't do exactly what I want to do. I have to somehow censor or kind of change, alter, modify the thing that I'm doing in order to create the impression of the thing that I'm doing. So there's this very strange dialogue which happens between me and them, all of which is invisible, that they don't know about. And the kind of compromise in that dialogue exists in many different ways, because in some effects, it may be that I've actually removed most of the structure and I can achieve a certain number of effects with words. Just the right word at the right point creates the right assumption that I need. There's another time where I can't do that. It's not really possible. So I need some other intervention.
That concept I recently heard in this like I don't know, it was some kind of like spiritual podcast type shit where it was saying that you have to have like the energy and the correct words at the same time for it to connect with people. Like the energy you have to hold, like you can say the same words if you're not holding the correct energy and it doesn't, you know, hit for people. And I've noticed that like when I was younger, like say like reading like maybe like some Luke Germain type stuff where it's like he's talking about some extremely simple ideas, but maybe talking about this is how you make someone forget their name, you know, and it's like it took me so long to understand that what you're saying about the other perspective, like really imagining yourself from another person's perspective, like that is like one of the most key things that switched up shit for me is when
it's in my opinion, it's the key skill more than anything else. It's object. If you can put yourself, if you want to, you have to think like them in order to think for them.
But
that's
there's
the
two
only
aspects
way.
to that. You actually have to be able to have like how is this even said? You have to construct a correct layman pedestrian point of view in your head that you can jump into. Like, and that construction has to be realistic. And that the more realistic of this is what a layman would do is the more efficient an assassin you can be with decisions. Because in the creative side, not even performing, I do this thing that I call like dual perspective, like creation. I don't know. I'm just giving it a name, but it's literally like, imagine like picture in picture where I'm imagining without like a mirror or camera, I'm just imagining constantly the front point of view and what I'm seeing at like 90% of the time while I'm working with props, trying to like handle shit. Because if I'm only focusing on my point of view, looking at it in my hand, I miss like things go so quickly when you're like, okay, if I turn it this way, that means they can't see this angle. So keeping both of these perspectives in mind at the same time during a creation process, which I'm sure you do similar things, it skyrocketed my ability to push into different areas, because it's like you're having these two things that are just over, like two wave patterns that are just going, and it gets.
Well, here's the thing that I think. Here's
wild.
The thing about that I think is really wild is that you have these two perspectives. They are the kind of the fundamental perspectives, them and you, right? Whatever that is, however that exists. But then there are all these additional factors that have an effect on both of those sides. So to use a sporting analogy, right? Let's imagine you've got guys that go and play basketball just down at the gym with their mates. You know, they take it really seriously and they play. All of the aspects of playing that game are present. And you could argue that to some extent that might be like a certain level of magician that just plays, you know, wants to play with some things, show some friends, whatever. But when you take it to its highest levels, everything becomes important. If you can play the game and you've got all the skills but no fitness, you can't play. If you've got all the fitness in the world but no skills, you can't play. You need to be able to attack and defend. You need strategy. You need experience. There's all this beautiful dance between all these additional elements that go on, which if you play at the lower levels, it doesn't matter anymore. You're just playing with your friends, and that's really all that matters. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you take it up a few notches, you suddenly start realizing how all these other things with magic, natural movement, timing, priming, you know, what information does someone bring to the table before they've even arrived, and what information do they now have as a result of you talking to them? What do they expect? What do they take with them? What do they remember? What are they like? There's so many of these additional things. And so for me, it's like, it depends on how you want to play the game, and it's up to you how you want to play the game. No one else can tell you how to play it. No one else can tell you what's more important. You should be doing this, you should be doing that. But what you need to try and look at is, where do I feel that I love and find joy in that process? That's the biggest thing, because if you can't take joy in it, I think you're failing at the most fundamental level. You need to be able to take joy in what you're doing. If you can't, I meet so many people doing things and they're always pained. It's always so difficult. It's always so arduous. I'm like, do something else then. You know, do you know what I mean? Like, you've got to love it, man. You've got to find a level of love through what you're doing. And if you love it, if you absolutely love it, then you've got something beautiful. That's such a hard thing to find in life.
Isn't it wild though that there's like this there's kind of this like perfectionist energy in the magic community though, where it's like it doesn't really, people kind of look down on people that try new things. Like I feel that energy quite often sometimes, where it's like, oh, like Calen's just doing his thing, and it's like, no, like, are you aware like the bravery it takes? Like I could put up classic magic tricks on my gram that are on the algorithm. Like if people forgot, like, you know, I've ran videos that got 30 million views, you know, a couple years. Like I understand how to get views if I wanted to, but that's not a game to me anymore. You know, the game is how do you keep the art and get the views? Like, it's not just get the views. It's not just fuck with the algorithm, figure out how to break the algorithm. No, what you're doing while you're getting the views and you're gaining your, like, we're talking on social media right now, but while you're gaining any amount of followers, interactions, like what you're doing during that time matters so fucking much. Because like, if there's, and to be completely, utterly honest, I do not know if it's even possible for a magician to be an artist and also a celebrity in America. I'm not saying in other places, but I'm saying like this is a very, but like I know Juan Tamariz is like, actually people know him, and like I know that it works in some places, but there's such a weird view of magic in America that like Blaine even is known for like not necessarily the magic craft itself. He's known for the
stunts, the endurance stuff.
He makes people wonder what is humanly possible, which is also a magic trick in itself. Mm-hmm. But just focusing on the craft with no stunts, with no life-defying, you know, like aspect to it, I am unsure if that works in culture. And I think my goal is just to be like, okay, does shit like that work, like in any form? And I think it's just like, I think that's why it's not that I'm not impressed with people that are on like come ups of like, oh my God, I just got, you know, 500,000 followers or this or that. Like, it's not that I'm not even impressed with their hustle. It's just that like what they're doing to get there matters a lot to me. Like how you make your money, how you're doing it, I think is important. And magicians have a already tough enough road ahead of them to get out of a lot of, you know, many-year-old like stigmas and just like things that culture places on what a magician is, that, you know, the minute that it becomes like, oh, that's the guy that just does the silly videos, you know, to get views, it's like, fuck, it's so hard to
but you know what, no, I'm not that I'm going to counter or argue against what you're going to say, but I think that there's a couple of points there. You know, one is about, you know, what you're doing. To me, there's almost no value judgment on it. What I mean by that is I kind of don't care what someone does to get there on any level, because the only thing I care about is what I do. That's number one. All right. So
I was more talking large picture, not directly towards maybe people, but yeah.
But it's like, because if you look at any art form, anything, you're going to have every single way in which someone's going to earn a living. You know, some people with a camera are making adverts and cheap, cheerful, silly things. Other people are making, you know, Oscar-worthy movies or whatever those things are. And we're not trying to appeal to a higher authority or whatever those things are.
You gotta be honest with our industry, man. Our industry is made up of the people that get seen are people that are like.
But that's out of your control. It's something
maybe,
so
maybe
out
we'll move
of your
on.
control.
I'm aware of that, but I can't.
Okay, all right. But let me say this. So, if the way I look at it is that you're in any industry going to have natural hierarchies that appear. You're going to have people at the top and people at the bottom because of competency, because of different drives. You're always going to have people backstabbing. You're always going to have people being negative. That's nothing to do with the magic industry or anything else. That's just groups of people, right? Yeah. So to me, I think that the main thing to do is to focus on yourself and to try to make yourself happy, push yourself through the process in the way that you want it.
100%.
And in doing so, you know what? If this person does something else and it's crazy, then good luck to them. But here's the thing. I won't even know about it. I don't even look at any. I give so little F's about what most other people are doing. Because I'm too busy concentrating on the things that I want to do. Like I've got, it's this Confucius quote, right? Which I love, right? Which is that every man has two lives, right? And his second starts the moment he realizes he has one. Right. When you know that, you know what, you're going to die, right? Like you are going to die. It's coming no matter whether you like it or not. And so it's like, we've got a short time on this earth, right? And I can't be bothered spending my time looking at what other people are doing. I just focus on what I'm doing. And what happens is you end up kind of feeling out people that are similarly aligned, and you just gravitate towards them. They gravitate towards you. And then, something good can happen. But yeah, I
agree. I think what more of what I was saying was coming from just an overall love for the art, for it to be understood at maybe a better level by culture. Just because I think people love magic, but they're just not aware of it yet. Like it's just the coolest shit to me, like it really is. And
do you not think that I'm not disagreeing with you necessarily, but
it's okay if you do. You don't have to sit. You don't have to.
Well, no, but I don't. No, I don't. I've just, by the way, noticed where I've got a couple of lights on, and I have doors and windows open because it's bloody hot. I've just noticed a massive creature, which I don't know what it is. It's
oh God,
small.
I have legit scorpions. Like there was it's too much sometimes. Like,
but you know what? Like you just trumped me straight away, because I'm in the UK. It's definitely not the worst it's going to be is a moth. So it's not going to be. It's not going to kill me. So I'm all right. No, anyway. So not that I'm going to disagree necessarily, but I think that I think people see what they want to see. Individuals. So what I mean by that is that to me, I think that film can be everything. It is hilarious when I want to see something hilarious. It's stupid and spoofy and silly. But it's also profound and inspiring. It depends on what movie I'm watching. Sometimes what movie it's artful and incredible. But some people just don't look at movies that way. They just want to see comedies or rom-coms or whatever. And other people don't. They only want to see black and white movies with subtitles. And I think really people see what they want to see in whatever art form it is. And I think that it will be the same for all. It will be the same for all things. So I'm not necessarily disagreeing, but I think you could put all the greatest, or in your opinion of what the greatest stuff is out there, and it still, I don't think, would make a difference, but people will still see what they want to see.
I guess I maybe a better analogy would be I would be so upset if Christopher Nolan didn't exist in our timeline, right? Like I would just be like I couldn't watch Christopher Nolan films all the time. It's like, it's too heady. But you want other movies. But if they didn't exist, it would just it would be what a travesty. You know what I mean?
But you know what? The only reason that you know how good Nolan films are is because of the crap ones, right? It's like, it's like we need,
my next point. That's what I'm saying. We need it all. And and it's not even necessarily crap. It's sometimes you're in a fucking bad mood and you need some light shit. Sometimes when I get super overwhelmed with stuff, because I'm on the lower end of autism spectrum at times, and sometimes I just need I'll just throw a rom-com on, just the dumbest stuff, just to be okay. Let's
does it have Ben Stiller and Jennifer Aniston? Yes. Put it on.
Yes. What is this? 50 First Dates? Are you really watching that for the fifth time, motherfucker?
Do you know what? So my favorite. So Nolan is definitely up there as a favorite of mine, film directors. But I would say my new kind of film director crush in the last few years has been Denis Villeneuve, who did
Prisoners, right? And
Arrival.
yes.
He
Bruh.
yeah.
Yo,
He's amazing.
I'm gonna sit on
amazing.
the floor, bro. Like, yeah, like that is
He's
first of all,
unbelievable.
the fact that Arrival can tackle an alien movie in such a fucking great way is
Yep. It's all about basically about communication. It's not it's an alien movie that uses
yeah.
aliens as a metaphor for talking about how we talk and communicate through time. And basically, if you knew that the things that were going to unfold in your future would be bad, would you do them anyway? It's about time. It's so, I mean, when you watch that movie, it's like a magic trick, man. It makes you realize that all these things that happen weren't memories. They're actually future projections, but it's so well edited that when you watch it the second time, it's like a magic trick. The first time you experience the magic trick, right? The second time you watch it, you see the method and you're in awe of how they edited that thing together in such a beautiful way. But you're not even aware of that edited timeline when you watch it the first time.
But it's the like, you know how sometimes it feels like cheap when it's like, like you didn't really give me enough clues. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you're telling me that ending is supposed to, like, I'm supposed to be impressed because you hid these clues. Like, you didn't, but like their clues are so overt, but like out of context. And it's just like, yeah, they did a great job with that.
But it also doesn't matter. It wasn't like, oh, I didn't figure that out.
That's what
it was like.
Exactly.
It wasn't. It didn't even matter that you didn't see him. It was when I watched that film, I was like, this is an absolute masterpiece of a movie, and brilliant.
Prisoners blew me away. Like I'll be honest, like I probably should have seen that years ago, but I just watched it this last year, and it was like, I was like that made that director also go on my list as well.
Have you seen Blade Runner 2049?
Okay, so there was like, I get into these glitches with movies. So for maybe like 2000, when did it come out? 2018 or I don't
2019,
know.
18, 19 maybe.
Oh yeah, maybe it was like the year after it came out. My morning routine was I would turn it on, and it's just right when I woke up, I'd turn on 2049, and then I'd go and get in the shower and have it playing while I'm getting my shit ready, and then I'd just turn it off, and it would just be on for as long as, like, you know, as long as it works. But I love that movie, man. It's very, very good. Obviously Blade Runner and Alien, all those movies are fire.
Well, the thing is, when I watched the original Blade Runner, I really loved the original, and I thought to myself, well, I didn't want them to make it because I thought, well, it's just not going to be as good. It's just going to. But the thing is that movie, it wasn't really even carrying on the previous film in the same way. He made his own individual movie that just existed. But what was incredible about it to me was the sound in it, the soundscapes, the feel, the grit, the visuals, the light. Oh my, it's so stunning, and how they put that together, the edits and the composition of the shots are just, but you don't notice it. It's so well done.
They hired this futurist guy, I'm forgetting his name, for the original Blade Runner. Ray Kurzweil, maybe?
Kurzweil, yeah.
For the original one? Fuck, man, I'm going to look like an idiot if I'm wrong, but I think he was involved in that. Like, because Blade Runner, like, they really switched up some sci-fi shit when the original Blade Runner, like, dropped. Well, I get a massive kick for watching this. One of the reasons as well that I love magic, right? Yeah, it's fun and it's all fun. You know, there's all that part of it, but there's this. It's like having a secret language, right? So you and I are in different parts of the world. We didn't grow up together, right? Yeah.
But there's this language that we share, so we can have a conversation about movies through the lens of magic. So when I watch movies, part of me is in them, experiencing them as a normal person. But there's another part of me that watches them sometimes the second time around if they've been great, where I'm like, wow, the fact that I've been led down that path and made to think that, the fact that I didn't even think that, and they dropped that, and at that moment it hit me, and I actually got a manly misting. I got, they made a tear in my eye. And all that happened was I watched things that were people saying things that aren't real in a made-up story, and yet they've made me. Do you know what I mean? There's something about that that you watch the craft. It's stunning.
The most recent magic trick that's been pulled on the world was a Billie Eilish music video. I truthfully believe that she gave people the feeling of a magic trick. she played people so hard. So on her, she dropped this music video this last week, and the opening shot is like this shitty CGI of a car wheel. And so it puts the VFX idea. And then she's walking down this road. There's VFX in the background of multiple hers. So you're just like, they're on like some really intense green screen. And then cars start driving past her at least, 30 to 50 miles an hour, fast enough for you to be like, this is CGI. And then she posted behind the scenes on her Instagram being like, yo, this is how we made the video. And it's her in the middle of a road with 14 cars, like doing choreographed donuts around. And she's like, my mom was terrified. But I'm like, and everyone's just like, I thought that was CGI. What the actual fuck? And I'm like, I commented the same thing because I'm just like, yo, I can't right now. Like I was really fucking played. Like I really was taken down the path of this is CGI but cool. And then she pulled the rug out and I'm like, damn, what a bitch. I was like, she's smart. She's real clever.
But that's what I love, man. That's why I love, like, I don't separate any of those. I watch sport in the same way. I used to play a lot of sport growing up, but I don't really so much now. But I got bored of sport in a weird way because it was just like, hey man, give me the ball. No, you have the ball.
But they have the same language though.
Exactly.
Which is
exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. Because when I watch it now, I'm watching feints and I'm watching, oh, that's interesting. This is mind games. And there's this kind of play about trying to achieve a goal, but it's being done through this very simple rule-based system of a court and a ball, normally going into a hoop or into a net or over a net. But there's all this stuff that's going on in order to defeat this opponent. And if you look at like an individual, an observer, you go, I'm trying to achieve this effect, and I'm going to try and get this effect into that place. It's the same with a movie. A movie is kind of selling something to you and saying, look, I'm going to take you on this journey. And a bad movie doesn't. A bad movie, the whole time you're sitting there going, oh God, that's so terrible. That's so bad. And you're not interested, or you're not. And I think that there are major lessons in all of the art forms across the board to learn across, how do you keep up interest?
Agreed.
How do you kind of make someone invested and care about an actor on a screen, and you know that they're an actor. This is like understanding that magic isn't real. I know that's an actor saying words that they didn't even write in a costume. This has been filmed over 9 months. That didn't happen. They probably retook that 20 times. But why don't I care? I'm being pulled into this place where I'm willingly suspending my disbelief because it doesn't matter. And I think
you're submitting your will to just be like no one really wants to submit anything to even a movie or anything. Like it's a okay, impress me type shit. Like what? I bought a movie ticket. That's really think about how we go in to watch the theaters. Like I watch a new film and I'm like, all right, let's see what you got. And it's like that's the energy.
Because if you sit there, if I just sit there and I just go, nah, and I'm sitting with my missus and I'm saying, no, these are actors. They're actors. So I was going to say, Ben, I think you're missing the point. You can willingly not be pulled in, but if you sit there and allow yourself to go in, that's great. A bad movie won't let you in. A bad movie is intentionally, it doesn't mean to, but it's intentionally pushing you out. And I think it's the same with good magic, and bad magic. Good magic pulls you in to something else and has the ability to. Bad magic doesn't. You've got no choice. But yeah, that's what I love, man. I love just being able to look at all this other stuff. Movies especially, I get such a kick out of watching movies and just pulling them apart and thinking about aspects of it to do with magic. I love it.
There's a tremendous amount. I think there's a reason why that works. It's because the early film directors, you look at they were kind of magicians, they pulled magic tricks off on film in the early, they pulled illusions,
Well, George Méliès definitely did. He was.
I was trying to remember his name, and I was like, I was gonna fuck it up. I'm glad you brought it up because I was like, God damn it, the M word, I always fuck up.
He used to run the work for Robert Houdin. All the visual effects in the theater. All the visual effects in the theater, and you had an audience when they're seeing that train come towards the screen, running out of the audience, and pioneers of that stuff in that time. But I think there's There's
Even
definitely
Buster Keaton, man. Buster Keaton understood like if you want to talk about interactive magic through the screen, Buster Keaton fucking understood that shit to a master. Like that shit. Like I go primal when I talk about it because it's hard for me to even like comprehend the mastery of like the idea of sitting on a train and just going up and down, why that is interesting. Like he just noticed like something. He's like, this is good because of this, and this. And he makes the educated assumption, I think. And
I remember, so I spend a lot of time, I'll watch a film and when a film makes me feel something, or there's a certain thing that I can't stop thinking about that film for whatever reason. You know, you watch a movie and you forget it instantly, and there's others that you watch and they just keep coming back to you. It leaves a weird feeling in your stomach, or you just keep thinking of overplaying. I always check out those directors because I'm like, that director has something. And what I really love doing is looking at documentaries about behind the scenes stuff, filmmakers talking about filmmaking and what they're doing, because there you start actually, it's like a magician describing methods. You start seeing tactics.
Any Christopher Nolan like interviews that are like more hidden, you should send them to me, because like I've scoured, but I just don't find a lot of great ones.
Well, here's one of the major ones that this was a long time ago when I first started falling in love with David Fincher. So Fincher, who for those who don't know, did Seven, Fight Club, Social Network. He does incredible camera work. And one of the interesting things, amongst many things with Fincher, that he concentrates on details and other stuff to create the kind of verisimilitude of all of his movies, and they're beautiful. But one of the things that I found really interesting about what he does is the way he moves the camera. So he has this way of basically moving the camera so that it basically moves with the person as they sit and then as they stand, right? So did
you watch the Nerd Writer on that video?
Yeah, seeing with how Fincher hijacks your eyes.
Yeah,
right?
By the Nerd Writer,
exactly
that channel.
Right.
That channel is phenomenal. If anyone here watching does not follow the Nerd Writer on YouTube, that dude has a phenomenal video essays that are like required for magicians to watch.
100%. I couldn't agree more.
That is, I'm almost annoyed that I said it out loud, because that literally has. Rory Adams put me onto it when I was working with him in China on a TV show, and he was like, the Nerd Writer is nice. And since then, I was just like, go
and check out. He says how Fincher hijacks your eyes. Right? You type that to YouTube, you'll find it.
I love it.
But this is let me just quickly finish this thought while it's there. So the thing I liked about that was that what it really does in the movement is it makes the camera feel omnipresent. So instead of it feeling like you're in amongst it, not omnipresent, makes it feel like almost like omnipotent, like a god watching these events. It creates this feeling that you only get with Fincher movies, and 90% of that is happening through just these very subtle, smooth, beautiful movements timed with exactly as they move and as they sit down. And it's intentional, and it creates not only an aesthetic, but it creates a feeling. And I remember thinking to myself, there's so many of those types of things that are, how something's introduced, how you talk about something, when you say something, how you elongate something. There's just a million of those little things that should be explored, played with, toyed, pushed, and all of them have the ability to create something.
That shit is fun. That is fun. Those kind of things are tremendously fun, because it's literally trying to pull something out of just this invisible realm of feeling into the physical realm. And it's just not everything. I can imagine that he must have tried so many different types of concepts of camera work before he got to that simple type of style,
Well, it's just little things like when you start kind of, how do you want to create a moment of intimacy? How do you want to create a moment of impact so he focuses a lot on details, where he'll suddenly zoom, or he creates a close-up or a macro shot of something, because he knows that by focusing on that detail, it makes an audience think that must be important. So he is essentially kind of often putting breadcrumbs out for just guiding your attention very subtly towards the conclusion he wants, just with some close-ups. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that there is an immediate kind of application, but just that principle alone, I think if you're a magician and that doesn't interest you, then I don't understand why not. Because to me, it's like about, what ways can you frame a visual picture which makes them create assumptions or ideas in their own head? To me, that's magic. That's real magic, is when not necessarily what I'm doing, but what you think I'm doing. Like, it's what I'm creating in your head that is actually the real magic effect. And I think that's why I love filmmaking so much, because that's what they're doing, man. They're magicians. They're 100% magicians.
I mean, story is, I don't even want to touch on that. But yeah, correct. They are magicians. They're fucking great magicians.
Someone just said here, I love his essay on the Prisoner of Azkaban. Do you know what? You're right. And there's a beautiful line that he said in that, which I've kind of adopted when thinking about magicians creatively. He says that, if you take a book of the Harry Potter books or whatever, and then you make a movie of it, so this will be the same for any book. The moment you make a movie, at that very moment, you take the collective imagination of everyone and collapse it into one thing. Because this book, where everyone had these different imaginations of what Hogwarts looked like or any of these things, a movie removes that collective imagination and collapses it into one thing. And I always found that really interesting, because it's one of the problems, I think, with some magic stuff, which as soon as you see something, it's why I like putting things in print. Because when you see something, there's nowhere else to go now. So when you read something, there's a huge space for you to play and create for yourself. Whereas when you watch it, it's like it removes everything and collapses it down to this one thing.
That was one thing that I picked up on accidentally with Blaine early on. This is my opinion on it, but just my opinion is, I don't believe that Blaine collapses realities into a single timeline very often. Like, he leaves it very ambiguous, And I think that that's partly why people connected with him early on in his career, is because, like, many magicians were collapsing effects down to, this is a vanish, this is a this, this is a this, this is a this. And Blaine said, okay, I'm gonna narrow it, but then at one point I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna let you decide what you believe it is at this point. It was just narrow enough to create interest, but not collapsing it into, this is a vanish done with sleight of hand, with practice. It's like he's like, and that was just a fun thing to notice, because
I agree.
Not everything needs to be collapsed in a magic trick, because you can, and then some things benefit from being collapsed, and it's just a fun thing to be aware of. Yeah.
Well, it's also why I think that it's like I'm always using different metaphors, but it's like, if you have some of my favorite musicians and their albums, one of the songs will be some kind of big epic about some emotive thing that they're doing, and then another one will be a short, cheerful bit about something else. It's not as if you have to decide and go, no, all of my music is massively deep and emotive about an event in my life. You can have an album which talks about different things. And I think that's what's really important as well, is to go, like, sometimes what I'm doing is trying to deal with something that I want to do. Other times it's like, you know what, this is a fun thing that I like doing. This is fun. It's just pure. It's not like I'm thinking it's something deep or anything else. It's just fun.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I agree. No, it's 100% okay. I think that it's really easy to get caught up in I don't know. Magic has an interesting energy to it sometimes, where it's just everyone's trying to act like a better version of themselves around other magicians, where it's just like, because it takes a lot of authenticness to just be able to be as good as you can at that moment and not want to be better. And if you're worse, fuck it, you have to practice. That's all you can do as per yourself. And it's, that stills a lot of fun from shit, but
it's funny you should say that. So I had that comment with, I was talking to someone about that. I said, it's one of the reasons that, over at Studio 52, we did so much of the stuff we did it. Well, when I say so much of it, 99% of stuff that we've done is live, right? So whether it's running not only the things that we've done on Instagram, but all the courses and everything, there's no filming, take two, run it again. It's film. We just do it live and that's it. And I'm editing live. So however it is live is how it is. And that's recorded. And I think that to me was the big thing. That I was like, I have to do that. And you know what? If things don't go well, they don't go well. But that to me was big.
You know what's interesting is I don't actually look at doing multiple takes as like multiple takes. I look at it as I don't rehearse a trick that I have designed until it's in front of a camera. Because like if the goal is to put it on camera, then that's all that matters. So me doing it in front of a mirror is literally wasting time because all that matters is how it looks with the correct lighting and the captured film. Like that's the end game. So I look at like a 2-hour like rehearsal of doing take after take after take as like just finding where the routine is, like routining the video. But once I know the proper beats of the video, I try not to do more than like 2 takes of just like final takes. Like I'll usually take like a couple-hour break after the rehearsal stage of the video, and then I'll just go back in and be like I like things not being perfect because I like that in music. I like hearing people's voice break. I like things that aren't necessarily perfect, and that's just like my own interest in stuff. But it can be like, you know, some people may look at it as amateur, and some people may look at it as artistic, and I'm okay with people not getting it some of the time. You know?
Also, for me, there's another thing, which is that I don't know. So in this last year, over a year of us being in COVID, we've done over 450 hours, probably more now. It'll be over 460 hours of online content, right?
You guys are savage. You're absolutely savage with the online game. It's wild. It's
madness. So, but all of it, we're not trying to like smash social media. I mean, look, there's stuff going on there, but our social media game isn't. We don't really care. We're just trying to do the thing we want to do. But the thing is, for me, is that I need people there live, because if I'm just sitting here right now talking to if you weren't here and this was just my camera right now, all I'm doing is looking at my camera and I'm in a space here by myself. To me, that's dull. I can't do it.
To me, I look at that as like the hardest problem to solve as a magician, because it's so impossible. I think if anyone can, like in my head, I'm just like, if anyone cracks this, if anyone can sit in front of a camera and connect with people through filmed in the past, like you film something and you connect with people with your past content in the future, if that gets worked out, I think you win the online game. Because it's just like, not saying that I think that everything has to be worked out continuously, live, online, but online for a magician is a very difficult space to live in right now. And I think that it's like, just go for the hardest problem. And if it can be solved, if like to be real, I think it's going to take multiple people's careers to like figure it out to the point where it like really connects with people.
Yeah.
But I'm obsessed with that like
it's
problem.
It's not as simple as just energy or being light. There's something else. There's a different quality there, because if, for example, I put a camera on here and I'm filming something, and I go right, boom, and I go, it will take me, depends what I'm doing or saying. Like it's just an intro. Just me going to start talking about something. I'll do the first take fine, but it won't be right. And then the second take I'll muck up, and then I'll take 3, 4, 5, 6 takes just to get it anywhere close to right. If it's live and there's an audience there of 100 people, it'll be right first time, because it's live. There's a different part of your brain switches on, and then the mistake doesn't matter. And so I think what the key is to me is to learn how to allow the mistakes in the recorded content, because when it's live, that mistake isn't a mistake. It's perceived differently. You can sense that it's coming from a live environment. And so what you might normally think of as a mistake isn't. It's just you talking naturally. Whereas as soon as there's no audience there, now that feels like a mistake. So to me, like my way around that was, well, I'll just do everything live. Well, that way I don't ever have to think about it. But the downside is, you know what? I could look at something and go, you know what? If I'd filmed that take 17 and taken that, I could put that out and have the perfect angle. But you know what it is, and this is another weird thing I have as well. So this is kind of crazy. I think your level of whatever move or routine you do is the level that you do it at right now. And for me, so what I think is, if you're going to gear up into it and do 30, 40, 50 repetitions, you get a flow, and then you get that flow, and then you take that end result. To me, right, your actual level is the very first time you've done it, because if you haven't done it in a week or a day or whatever, where is that level that you have it? And it's like that's where it's got to be. And so I'm like, you know what, sod it. I guess I'll find out what my level is. So
but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I think there's a difference between how do I put it? I think there's a difference between doing 40 takes in a row and treating filming as rehearsals and then breaking and then because
yeah, but your stuff's very different though. The difference, right. I would say,
but
is
even
different.
Some of the magic stuff though, like the cash flip thing, I had the gimmick made, and that was just one take that I filmed. I just said, okay, I know exactly. I messed around with it on camera, figured out what the correct way in my head was to maybe film, and then I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna hit it once, and then that's gonna be the thing that goes up. Because I do. There's two things that have to be balanced, where you're wanting to get a good take, but you're also not wanting to create a false sense of reality of I'm very aware of that. I don't want people, I think Chris Angel taught magicians this in flying colors. You have to be able to do what you do live in person. If that's not a thing, it doesn't work in a career, And
I think that's also one of the reasons why over time I biased away from other stuff. It's almost like if anything that I do, it's stuff that I can do immediately for someone. And I like that. It's not that it's not that it's just some kind of working practicality thing. It's there's something about, for me, I want to know that the reason that this has happened is because of skills that I have, either mental skills, performing skills, dexterous skills, and an ordinary object to some extent. So whatever happens as a result of, which is kind of the opposite way around to what you're doing. Not that it's good or bad, but this is what I'm saying. They're very, very different forms of expression. But for me, that's what I find the drive, which is why it's so interesting with what you do, because you are a lot of the time creating this thing that absolutely isn't practical but that's not the point. The point is to kind of create this.
But it practical in sense of what is the goal? Because that's the thing that has to be identified. Yeah. Because if I'm fully aware of fuck man, I know what works live and what doesn't, and I'm not like an idiot in that sense. I wouldn't put certain things in that area, but there's a different energy for some of it. Because to me, to be real, I love my personal experience of experiencing illusion when I'm fooled and then I understand how it works. I really enjoy that. So if I enjoy that, I know that, there's got to be other people that enjoy that, and figuring out how to do that in a maybe more artistic way. Because it doesn't have to be practical if that's the goal. If the goal is I'm going to show someone how it works at the end, then all I have to do is suspend even if it's an extremely angle, I know that I have to suspend the illusion for this minute and 30 seconds, and then it can be released, where more complex props or things like that could fall into that category. And and also here's the thing, the advantage of that
is that, like you said, you might have to hold it for a minute and a half before releasing it. But what that release does is to use your example again, it takes the fight away. So for me, you know, the challenge is how can I not release that and not have the fight? And that becomes, but not necessarily have to throw it away or just use comedy in order to be able to go, don't worry about it, I'm just a buffoon. Or like, it's like, how can you actually, it's one of the things I really like to some extent with what Blaine does a lot of the time, is that he was one of the early people that managed to be able to somehow preserve that thing and not necessarily have that fight, create something else. And I think that's very interesting. And it's such a difficult challenge. And I think partly over time, I've started to realize that it comes down to personality. Like it's not just principles or rules. It's not like, oh, if you do this, it does this. I think a lot of it also comes from your style. Like, you know what I mean? Like some people just invite it and some people have it. So it's very difficult, but
yeah, I agree.
I love it.
That's cool shit. Word, man. It's been almost over an hour, so let's call it. But yo, thanks for taking the time, Ben. Appreciate it. And,
thanks so much for having me in. Good
luck on your new. You got a new book coming out, right? Is it still pre-order or
No. The book it's out. No, it's out now.
It's out.
Yep.
Okay, I'm an idiot. Great. Perfect.
It's out. It's all good. So yeah, no,
Sick.
it's all out.
Well,
so yeah, Studio 52, Inside Out.
Sick.
But yeah.
Sick, man.
It's all good.
Well, thanks for taking the time. I love hearing your brain work. So
oh, dude, look, it's barely working. I need some more nicotine. But look, dude, you're a genius. So look, a clever dude. So look, thanks for having me on.
Hey man, we'll talk. All right, peace.
Boom. Take it easy.
How's this?